Tell you what, summer is starting to slip away. It's getting a little bit chilly here in the morning. Still, it's not a bad view, is it, today? The calm before the storm, I imagine. Well, storms. Bloody hell, the weather's been horrendous, isn't it, recently? Certainly in London, anyway. Yesterday was pretty showery, to say the least. Hope you're good. Friday morning. Not a bad day, is it, Friday? Yeah, just want a bit of a catch-up, really, on West Ham stuff. Obviously, the stuff we've been talking about recently has been about the board and the pressure on them at the moment, which is good, and quite rightly so. Obviously did a video yesterday and did stuff with TalkSport, so you can go back and check that out if you haven't seen it already. But I want to talk about other bits and pieces that are going on. The big sort of story at the moment is Lucas Paqueta. The FA released their dossier of the case and the hearing and everything else. A huge document, over 300 pages. I believe it's the largest, I think that's what Paqueta's team have said, the largest ever in the sport in its history, which is unbelievable. I've never really understood this with the FA. I've never understood why they have been so hell-bent on pushing this case against Paqueta. We've talked about it on this channel numerous times. I mean, it was obvious, I think about a year, maybe even 18 months ago, that the evidence was just not there. There was no concrete evidence. What the FA were basing the whole case on was probability and data, which I've always felt was only useful against evidence. Do you know what I mean? It could help substantiate something. You can't base surely a case on probability. There's got to be something concrete to go, here's the communication between Paqueta and you know, X, Y, Z to say that he was going to do this, which they never had. I've never understood why a year ago they just didn't drop this case and say, we've looked into it, there's not enough there, and move on. They really would have saved some face, saved a lot of issues for Paqueta and West Ham and everybody else involved, but they've gone full steam ahead with it. And this report, it's just damning on them. It makes them look terrible. They look absolutely terrible. They do not come out of this looking good at all. And this now leaves Paqueta in a position where he could well go and sue them. And to be honest with you, I really hope he does. I think it's appalled him. Not only did they not have the evidence, right, they've had to use to go in terms of going through the data. They've gone for an internal firm. They've gone for like a company that they work with and utilise. They've got a relationship with the FA, so there's obviously going to be a level of bias reporting and investigating going on. I mean, I work in a field where you have to look at contracts and things like that, especially when it comes to disputes and things like that, right? And for sort of high-level, big cases, right, in terms of where there's a huge dispute going on and you're talking big sums of money, and it could well be that you hire an external firm, a completely independent firm, to look at it, to give you an understanding of where you stand. And that's also because if they turn around and say, actually, you're in a bad position here, we don't agree with you, you may then decide to see, well, we're not going to pursue it. Or they favour you, and then then you've got a good case. And also it helps back up your case. You can present it as evidence, say, look, we've hired someone independent and they believe this. But the FA didn't even do that. The FA hired someone internal. I mean, the whole thing is absolutely shocking. So yeah, as far as we understand it, Lucas Paqueta has got a strong case here. You know, he really has, and I really hope he does go for this, because much as I'm delighted to have Paqueta still at the football club, and I think it's worked in our favour in that regard, because we would have, we've kept Paqueta. I think he's in his 4th season now at West Ham. So there is that sort of silver lining, says West Ham. But let's get it right. I mean, we've had Paqueta the last 2 years has not been the Lucas Paqueta that we know because of this. And I dread to think what he's done to his personal life. You know, he must have been horrendous thinking that your career's on the line, especially if you're innocent. I mean, it's horrendous, really awful. So in terms of the West Ham side of things, though, West Ham aren't going to pursue this in terms of suing the FA, which I think makes sense. I mean, as much as I would love West Ham to do that, for the fact that how the FA have treated Paqueta, West Ham and everybody else, I think it would be unwise. I mean, you think about it, West Ham need to maintain a good relationship with the FA. You don't want to be damaging that. You know, you're going to need them on your side. So I do think West Ham are probably going to say, well, as much as we possibly could pursue this, I think it'd be very difficult to do. And it's probably, in the bigger picture things, just to draw a line and say, look, leave it as that. But in terms of Paqueta, I believe he will go and sue them, and I'd be surprised if he doesn't. And I hope he does, and I hope he's successful, because he's lost a lot of money, he's lost medals, he's lost countless things. You know, his life's been completely disrupted by this. Yeah, so that's where we are on that one. I've seen the news regarding Raheem Sterling, a possible link to West Ham. he's trying to get out of his contract at Chelsea. He's not even been given a squad number by Chelsea. I mean, talk about a fall from grace, old Sterling. I mean, it feels like his career's finished quickly. I don't believe West Ham are going to pursue anything for that. I know there's reports that we might. I just don't see it. He's on a huge wage. I know he'd be available on a free, but what's the point? Do we really need Sterling? I just don't see it as a viable one. If he was to come and be available for, let's say, 50 grand a week, 60 grand a week, something like that, then maybe I'd say, well, let's go for it. Why not? And chuck him a couple of quid and have him available. Could maybe operate as a backup. But I just don't see it. I just don't see West Ham doing it. I think we've seen that we've done our business now. You saw our manner about how we did things on the deadline day sort of thing. I can't see West Ham now forking out more. I just don't see it at the moment. And it's like, it just doesn't feel like a position where we need to focus on and spend any more money on. So, yeah, I think that one's very unlikely. Also, I haven't heard anything from X to suggest that we are. So unless anything changes, I'll let you know. But I don't think that will. One thing I have heard from X, though, is regarding Rodriguez. So there is a chance he could still go. Saudi club's interested, but it looks like Mexico is the more likely destination for him. Now, I'm not going to hold my breath for this one because we've heard this all throughout summer, haven't we? That Rodriguez is going to go. He's going to go to Spain. He wanted to go back to Spain. Real Betis was his preferred choice, but Espanyol was another club that were really interested. I was certain he was going. The fact he's still here leads me to believe that he probably is just going to stay. And to be honest with you, as much as I think he's very slow and he struggles with the pace of the Premier League, I think he's still useful to have about. I mean, I still think there are certain games he could suit him and certain scenarios will suit him, especially if we're trying to hold on maybe to a game and you want to put an extra body in there just to protect the back line. I think it might be useful. So I just don't see us selling him, but there is strong links still suggesting that he might well go. If he goes, then are West Ham going to look for anybody else? I mean, my thoughts were, this is my general thoughts, so we probably would let him go, say, to Saudi or to Mexico, and then we bring in Josh Brownhill. But Josh Brownhill's now off to Saudi himself, as I understand it. I think he's in advanced talks, and maybe might even be further than that now. So that's a no-go. So I personally don't see Rodriguez going. It seems a bit pointless at this stage now to let him go. You might as well just keep him around. It's not like he's a huge cost to the football club, you know. Yes, that's the latest on where we are. I'll do videos, I'm sure, if there's any changes and things like that. We'll have something like an update over the weekend. Obviously going to try and chat to Gonzo at some point, chat about a bit of a catch-up, a few little bits and pieces and other bits and bobs, and we'll try and get Dan Nordos on as well for a catch-up about the West Ham situation. So I'll keep you posted with that. But any other updates, I'll come back with you. But have a good Friday. And let's hope the weather stays a little bit like that. I doubt it.